Discover the amazing, clinically proven health benefits of Original Tahitian Noni. Original Tahitian Noni includes powerful antioxidants, adaptogens, nutrients, and phytonutrients to naturally boost energy levels, immune system function, and overall health. Meticulously sourced from French Polynesia, this is the original superfruit. Accept no imitations. Original Tahitian Noni. Visit ATR Health at alchemicaltechrevolution.com. and click on the Shop Here tab for more details.
But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Listening to the Alchemical Tech Revolution, and I am your host, Wayne McRoy. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're going to discuss the secret religion of the elite. Have you ever wondered why it is that people in positions of power in this world, well, they act very differently than you and I. They treat people differently than you and I. Have you ever wondered why this is? Why they seem to have a separate set of ethics that they use for themselves than they do for others? Well, tonight we're going to get a little bit into that, and we're going to discuss and outline their secret religion. We'll tell you what it is and what it's about, and all the philosophical concepts that underlie their belief system. Who exactly these people are, what it is they believe that's different from you and I, and the things that they do to act upon those beliefs. We'll discuss that tonight. And tonight we're going to be reading from a publication called The Equinox. Now, this is a 1919 iteration of this volume. And this, of course, is written by those in good standing within the Order of the Silver Star, one of these secret fraternities that sits at the top of all the other secret society groups. The Argenteum Astrum, the Silver Star, founded partway by Aleister Crowley, along with another gentleman whom we named in another episode here. So this organization, brought into the limelight by those two, is the organization that this text is written for members only, adepts only within that fraternity. So this is not something that was readily available to the general public in ages past. I shouldn't say ages past, in years past. This is only since 1919. Okay, so when we're talking about this was hidden away within the libraries of the secret society groups for a long, long time, until, of course, we had the advent of the internet and people started scanning books, making them available online, and now you could find this stuff. It's all out in the open, and that, of course, is all according to their plan as well. It's called Revelation of the Method. We're living in a time now where they don't think it really matters if this information is available to everybody, because they know The vast majority of the masses are ignorant of it all and wouldn't even bother to look at it. Wouldn't even bother to try to find it. Wouldn't know what they were looking for. And even if they did, they probably wouldn't read it. So they don't care that it's out there at this point. But here it is, and we're going to tell you exactly what it is that they believe. And we'll show you, we'll demonstrate in their own words what they think of you. So without further ado, let's get into this message from the book, The Equinox, this writing, The Equinox, which actually there were several different iterations thereof, several editions, several volumes published. This was something that I think Crowley began to publish twice a year for members of this secret inner circle of the occult fraternities. And this portion thereof is a message of the Master Therion, which, by the way, Master Therion means the great beast within this order. And it makes notation here that all quotations in this message are from Liber 220, the Book of the Law. And I'll pause for a second just to note 220. That number is of huge significant importance in occult circles, especially to the Argenteum Astrum. 220, you would recognize the 22. If you've been listening to this program for any length of time, the 22, of course, is the number of the master builder. And all of these things derived in Freemasonry have direct connections to this secret religion of the elites of this world. So let's continue into the reading here. We'll start in earnest. And he begins with some quotations here. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. The word of the law is Thelema. Thelema means will. Going to pause for a second and make the notation here for you good folks that the word will has a capital W, making an important designation of sorts here, will. So Thelema means will. The key to this message is this word, will. The first obvious meaning of this law is confirmed by antithesis. And he gives another quotation here, and it says, quote, the word of sin is restriction, end quote. And then he goes on to say, again, thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. For pure will, unassuaged of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, is every way perfect. Gonna pause for a second here, folks. So this is another direct quote from Liber 220, the Book of the Law, transcribed by Aleister Crowley, allegedly channeled to him by a being named Ewas. The Book of the Law. This is the new law, according to Aleister Crowley. This is the law of the new age. These are the belief systems that those elites in this world have. They understand that we are in a changeover between the ages. They've been planning for this new age for a very long time. And it sounds like a whole lot of hoopla and nonsense in the new agey circles. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We've all heard the song, right? Well, take note. This is a very important concept in this reality in which we live. We are at a crossroads in the changeover of ages. And there are elites at the top levels of the power structure in this world that are seeking to manipulate this change in the cycle of time here to usher in their new era, their new age, their golden dawn, their new world order. You see, it's all the same old new world order, isn't it? All the time. And they have some very religious beliefs attached to this idea, so it goes way beyond just political motivations. So you understand that. This New World Order concept is something implicit to their religious belief. They need it to happen. With that being the case, we can see the beliefs of these people have a huge impact upon the world. A huge impact. So we're going to get back into the reading here. Take this carefully. It seems to imply a theory that if every man and every woman did his and her will, the true will, there would be no clashing. Every man and every woman is a star, and each star moves in an appointed path without interference. There is plenty of room for all. It is only disorder that creates confusion. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So notice the master Therion here is assuring people that every man and every woman is a star. Did you ever wonder what George Bush was talking about when he talked about those 1,000 points of light? The stars in the heavens. Every person is a star. There's room for all. The will of all. You can be as gods. You will be deified as a star in the sky. In their system, in their belief. And of course they'll say, well, this is metaphor, of course. That is, of course, unless you look at perhaps some of the doctrines of some of the religions and pseudo-religions that have become manifest through these secret society groups and these occult fraternities. You know, things like Mormonism, Scientology, etc., etc. They teach something similar, don't they? Well, I'll leave that to you guys to go ahead and look into that on your own. But you might be shocked at what you find. But anyway, let's continue on here. From these considerations, it should be clear that do what thou wilt does not mean do what you like. It is the apotheosis of freedom, but it is also the strictest possible bond. Do what thou wilt, then do nothing else. Let nothing deflect thee from that austere and holy task. Liberty is absolute to do thy will, but seek to do any other thing whatever, and instantly obstacles must arise. Every act that is not in definite course of that one orbit is erratic and hindrance. Will must not be two, but one. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So the will, your true will, cannot be two ways, it says here. You cannot act in two different accords, in opposing nature, in paradoxical ways, which is kind of a hypocritical thing, since these secret society groups, they teach in paradoxes. But of course they say you must be unified in your will. And of course what this is speaking of is collectivism, unity of will towards a common purpose. Have you heard the term common purpose out there in association with certain political movements? Common purpose. So you see here, collectivism is what it's about. The will must not be two, but one. Must be unified in your thoughts and actions. Collectivism, otherwise known as communitarianism, also known as communism. But let's continue on. I don't want to put any more words in their mouths. As I said earlier, they will tell you exactly who they are and what they're about in no uncertain terms if you just listen. And you learn to read between the lines a little bit and interpret what it is that they're not saying as well as what they are saying. It's all connect the dots. It's pattern recognition. You can understand their intention by what they say and also by what they don't say. So let's continue. Note further that this will is not only to be pure, that is, single, as explained above, but also unassuaged of purpose. This strange phrase must give us pause. It may mean that any purpose in the will would damp it. Clearly, the lust of result is a thing from which it must be delivered. But the phrase may also be interpreted as if it read, quote, with purpose unassuaged, for example, with tireless energy. The conception is, therefore, of an eternal motion, infinite and unalterable. It is nirvana, only dynamic instead of static, and this comes to the same thing in the end. The obvious practical task of the magician is then to discover what his will really is, so that he may do it in this manner, and he can best accomplish this by the practices of Liber the Sharp. I can't pronounce the word right, spelled Thisharb, which is in the Equinox, Volume 1, Number 7, page 105. Or such others as may from one time to another be appointed. So we're going to pause for a second. So he's giving specific instructions. Here's where to find instructions on how to accomplish the practice of finding what your real will is, and the unity of purpose that you would have with the others, the other adepts working in this way. So when you discover what your real will is, you should work tirelessly towards this, without apology, without consideration of anything else. Do it wholeheartedly. That's what's being said here. So let's read on here. It should now be perfectly simple for everybody to understand the message of the Master Therion. And he says, thou must first find out what is thy will. Second, do that will with a one-pointedness, detachment, and peace. Then, and then only, art thou in harmony with the movement of things, thy will part of, and therefore equal to, the will of God. Gonna pause for a moment right here, folks. So he says, when you find your true will, when you determine what your true will is, then it will function in harmony with what he calls the movement of things, capitalized, movement and things, both capitalized here. Thy will part of, and therefore equal to, the will of God. So you see here, the claim is man is as God. Once again, within the teachings of these secret schools, man is God. Your will is your God. And it's only through doing your will that you can become God. You will be God. And you need to determine what is your will. And in determining what is your will, you'll see that it works in harmony with the rest of what he describes here as the movement of things. So you'll work in conjunction with the other adepts of the Brotherhood. You'll work in unison, of one spirit, of one mind, working towards the same goals. And you'll fulfill your part, your will, and your will be just as if it was God's will that you can manifest in that way. That's essentially what's being said, but I won't put any more words in their mouth. We'll continue reading on. You'll get the picture. And since the will is but the dynamic aspect of the self, and since two different selves could not possess identical wills, then if thy will be God's will, thou art that. Gonna pause for a moment there, folks, in case you didn't catch that. What the great Therion here is now saying, the Master Therion, the great beast, is now saying is that the will is a dynamic aspect of self. And since two different selves could not possess identical wills, if you figure out what your true will is, then your true will be God's will. And if it's God's will, then that makes you God. Therefore, you are God. That's what they're teaching. And I'll always tell you, we've been precautioned by the Bible and other sources. Weigh the spirits. How can you know? How can you discern? What is the nature of such a thing? Well, you could ask yourself some simple questions. Does it glorify God, or does it glorify man? Well, man essentially saying man can be God is glorifying man, not God. So you can know a little something about the spirit behind this, and it's also talking about this spirit of unity, this oneness, working together. Like I said, I'm not going to put any more words in their mouths. They'll tell you who they are and what they're about. So I'm just going to continue on reading here. There is but one other word to explain. Elsewhere it is written, surely, for our great comfort, love is the law, love under will. This is to be taken as meaning that, well, will is the law. The nature of that will is love. But this love is, as it were, a byproduct of that will. It does not contradict or supersede, does not contradict or supersede that will. And if apparent contradiction should arise in any crisis, it is the will that can guide us aright. Lo, while in the book of the law is much love, there is no word of sentimentality. Hate itself is almost like love. Fighting most certainly is love. As brothers fight ye. All the manly races of the world understand this. The love of liber legis is always bold, virile, even orgiastic. There is delicacy, but it is the delicacy of strength. Mighty and terrible and glorious as it is, however, it is but the pennon upon the sacred lance of will, the damascened inscription upon the swords of the knight monks of Thelema. Love is the law, love under will. And it's signed 666. So I'm going to pause for a moment. I don't know how much of that I really need to break down for you, but essentially what they're saying is they do say, probably just for the comfort of those adepts and masters, that love is the law, love under will. But then it goes on to describe love isn't exactly what you think. Love can be tough love, as it were. Love can even be hate, depending upon what your true will is. Hate itself is almost like love. Fighting most certainly is love, he says. It's always bold, virile, orgiastic. Does that sound like the definition of love to you? Now, this same person who was just telling you the will can't be twofold in nature is now telling you love and hate are essentially the same. These twofold things, these opposites, are one and the same. And that depending upon what is your true will, this can fall on either side of those implications and fall under the banner of love. In Thelema, it's all about the will. The will is the important thing here to the magician. And if you are a skilled magician and you follow your true will, well, you're God. That's what they're saying. And even if it doesn't seem like love, well, let your will guide you, and it'll be correct. Do you understand some of the things that have been revealed here so far? And we're not done yet. We got a lot more to cover. Because next, it talks about the law of liberty, as it were. And it goes on and reifies here once again. All quotations in this tract are from Liber 220, the book of the law. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. It begins with that again. And the author here says, I am often asked why I begin my letters in this way. No matter whether I am writing to my lady or my butcher, always I begin with these 11 words. Why? How else should I begin? What other greeting could be so glad? Look, brother, we are free. Rejoice with me, sister. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. And I'm going to pause for a moment there, folks. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Ever wonder, did you ever notice that that's actually exactly 11 words, 11, described as the evilest of numbers by Aleister Crowley? Well, of course, there's a reason for that. That's why it's their mantra. And you'll notice here he closed out that last phrase with, there is no law beyond do what thou wilt, because you see, they want to rewrite the natural laws in the new age. They think that all of the time-tested natural laws that our Creator put in place here are null and void in the new age, that they are now writing the laws of nature, that their will supersedes the laws of nature because they are God. This is what they believe. This is essentially what they teach. There's no moral consequence for the things that they do because they are God, you see. So their will is the thing that must be done. But like I said, I'm not going to put words in their mouths. This is essentially the translation I could give you of what they said, or what they do say in here, but I'll just continue reading, and you'll hear it right from the horse's mouth here. He says, I write this for those who have not read our sacred book, the book of the law, or for those who, reading it, have somehow failed to understand its perfection. For there are many matters in this book, and the glad tidings are now here, now there, scattered throughout the book as the stars are scattered through the field of the night. Rejoice with me, all ye people. At the very head of the book stands the great charter of our Godhead. Quote, every man and every woman is a star, end quote. We are all free, all independent, all shining gloriously, each one a radiant world. Is not that good tidings? Then comes the first call of the great goddess Nuit, lady of the starry heaven, who is also matter, in its deepest metaphysical sense, who is the infinite in whom we live and move and have our being. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. Matter, the great goddess Nuit. This is an Egyptian goddess identified here. Nuit, representing matter. Mater, mother, matrix, the matrix. Let's continue on. Here, her first summons to us, men and women. Come forth, O children, under the stars, and take your fill of love. I am above you and in you. My ecstasy is in yours. My joy is to see your joy. Later, she explains the mystery of sorrow. For I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union. This is the creation of the world, that the pain of division is as nothing, and the joy of dissolution all. It is shown later how this can be, how death itself is an ecstasy like love, but more intense, the reunion of the soul with its true self. And what are the conditions of this joy and peace and glory? Is ours the gloomy asceticism of the Christian and the Buddhist and the Hindu? Are we walking in eternal fear lest some sin should cut us off from grace? By no means. Be goodly, therefore, dress ye all in fine apparel, eat rich foods, and drink sweet wines, and wines that foam. Also take your fill and will of love, as ye will, when, where, and with whom ye will, but always unto me. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. Did you ever wonder why the elite live differently than you and I? Why it is that they do this? They wear the finest apparel, eat the rich foods, drink the sweet wines. They have their fill of love with whomever they want, whenever they want, however they want to get that. And it says here, but always unto me, because this is a quote from the goddess Nuit, as it were. The divine feminine, as a sort here, matter, the creation itself. They deified the creation itself, personified it as a goddess, and they feel that if they dedicate their actions to the creation here itself, that this makes them justified in seeking their true will, makes them gods. This relates to the idea of the Scarlet Woman in the book of Revelation. But anyway, let's continue on reading. I don't want to put words in their mouths. You can read between the lines and understand what they're communicating here. Let's continue. This is the only point to bear in mind, that every act must be a ritual, an act of worship, a sacrament. Gonna pause for a moment right there, folks. You ever wonder why we get all these ritualistic performances at, like, say, the Super Bowl halftime show and the Grammy Awards, and why do you think it looks like a ritual? Well, it's a sacrament. It's an act of worship. It is a ritual dedicated to the material world, the hyper-materialist paradigm, the creation itself, in which they want to trap all of us. That's why we've been steered in this way. This is the realm of Ahriman, the spirit of Ahriman, trapping us in the materialist frame of mind. It's ritualized in this way, dedicated to the goddess, as it were, matter itself, the existence of all things, this matrix, the matrix, dedicated to the matrix. Anyway, we'll continue reading here. Live as the kings and princes, crowned and uncrowned of this world, have always lived, as masters always live, but let it not be self-indulgence. Make your self-indulgence your religion. When you drink and dance and take delight, you are not being immoral. You are not risking your immortal soul. You are fulfilling the precepts of our holy religion, provided only that you remember to regard your actions in this light. Do not lower yourself and destroy and cheapen your pleasure by leaving out the supreme joy, the consciousness of the peace that passeth understanding. Do not embrace mere Marian or Mulicine. She is Nuit herself, specially concentrated and incarnated in human form to give you infinite love, to bid you taste even on earth the elixir of immortality. But ecstasy be thine and joy of earth, ever to me, to me. I'm going to pause for a moment here, folks. So it's encouraging, fulfilling all your earthly lusts and desires, living richly here, doing what they please, even though it says that the will doesn't mean doing whatever you want. But of course they're telling you it's doing whatever you want, but dedicating it to the matrix, this aspect here of existence. Let's continue reading. Again she speaks. Love is the law, love under will. Keep pure your highest ideal, strive ever toward it without allowing aught to stop you or turn you aside, even as a star sweeps upon its incalculable and infinite course of glory, and all is love. The law of your being becomes light, life, love, and liberty. All is peace, all is harmony and beauty, all is joy. For here, how gracious is the goddess, quote, I give unimaginable joys on earth, certainty, not faith, well in life, upon death, peace unutterable, rest, ecstasy, nor do I demand aught in sacrifice, end quote. Is this not better than the death in life of the slaves of slave gods, as they go oppressed by consciousness of sin, wearily seeking or simulating wearisome and tedious virtues? With such, we who have accepted the law of Thelema have nothing to do. We have heard the voice of the star goddess. I love you, I yearn to you, pale or purple, veiled or voluptuous. I, who am all pleasure and purple, and drunkenness of the innermost sense, desire you. Put on the wings and arouse the coiled splendor within you. Come unto me. And thus she ends. Sing the rapturous love song unto me. Burn to me perfumes. Wear to me jewels. Drink to me, for I love you, I love you. I am the blue-lidded daughter of sunset. I am the naked brilliance of the voluptuous night sky. To me, and with these words, the manifestation of Nuit is at an end. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So think about what this concept encourages. They're not bound by moral conceptions such as sin. They think they're above that and beyond that. They don't think in those terms. That's why these elites of this world, why they behave so much differently than you and I. They don't see anything morally wrong with their actions. They think they're above and beyond that. Because they dedicate the things that they do with their will to this matrix, this manifestation, the goddess Nuit. And of course, is this a literal goddess to whom they're dedicating this? Or is this the creation itself, the idea of materialism itself? Hyper-materialism, the material paradigm. They think that this is their way forward, how they can become the gods of this place, is by mastering this physical material world here, mastering it, bringing it into submission under them, and then they can truly be God. This is how they view it, the Matrix, if they can harness the power of the Matrix. And by performing these rituals and by performing all their actions of their individual wills, dedicating that to the Matrix, it empowers them in their religious ideology, helps to cement those things that they plan for our future here. But let's go ahead and we'll continue reading because there's still some more ground here to cover. In the next chapter of our book is given the word of Hadit, who is the complement of Nuit. He is eternal energy, the infinite motion of thing, the central core of all being. The manifested universe comes from the marriage of Nuit and Hadit. Without this could no thing be. This eternal, this perpetual marriage feast is then the nature of things themselves, and therefore everything that is a crystallization of divine ecstasy. Hadit tells us of himself, quote, I am the flame that burns in every heart of man and in the core of every star, end quote. He is then your own inmost divine self. It is you, and not another, who are lost in the constant rapture of the embraces of infinite beauty. A little further on, he speaks of us, quote, We are not for the poor and the sad. The lords of the earth are our kinsfolk, end quote. Quote, Is God to live in a dog? No, but the highest are of us. They shall rejoice. Our chosen, who sorroweth, is not of us, end quote. Gonna pause for a minute here before we continue. So they identify Hadit, H-A-D-I-T, this complementary partner of Nuit, the Matrix. They identify him as the higher self, the divine self, the inmost divine self, the higher self. This is who they deify in the secret schools. It's all about the self. Has nothing to do with God, the Creator. Nothing at all to do with that. And it's this combination of the self with the matrix that brings about this infinite motion of thing, as he calls it here. This manifestation in the universe. And he goes on to make the claim that they shall rejoice, our chosen, who sorroweth is not of us. So they claim to be the adepts, the masters, the highly spiritually evolved folks here. They're beyond morals, as it were, ethics. They're beyond those concerns. They see themselves as being more elevated than that, more evolved than that. Let's continue reading, though. Quote, beauty and strength, leaping laughter and delicious languor, force and fire are of us, end quote. Later, concerning death, he says, quote, think not, O king, upon that lie, that thou must die. Verily thou shalt not die, but live. Now, let us be understood. If the body of the king dissolve, he shall remain in pure ecstasy forever, end quote. When you know that, what is left but delight, and how are we to live meanwhile? So I'm going to pause for just a moment there, folks. I'm going to read that last portion again, and we'll continue on from there. Beauty and strength, leaping laughter, and delicious languor, force and fire are of us. Later, concerning death, he says, think not, O king, upon that lie, that thou must die. Verily thou shalt not die, but live. Now, let be understood. If the body of the king dissolve, he shall remain in pure ecstasy forever. When you know that, what is left but delight, and how are we to live meanwhile? So I'll pause right there and point out the fact that this is a repetition of the same great lie that was spoken in the Garden of Eden. He says, think not that you will die. That's a lie. You most certainly won't die, but you shall live. Remember when the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was being presented to Eve in the garden. This is the same lie the serpent told Eve. God told them in the day that they ate thereof they would most certainly die. The serpent said, no, you won't die. You'll be as gods if you eat it. That's not true. You won't die. And now it's saying the same thing here. That if this king, as it were, one of these adepts or members of these secret fraternities, if their body does dissolve, he'll remain in pure ecstasy forever. Well, that's the opposite of what we're told in the Holy Bible, isn't it? If you die separated from God, well, that's not a good situation. You're not going to have pure ecstasy forever. So then the author here leaves us with the question, and how are we to live meanwhile? And then he goes on again to quote the book of the law here. Remember, these quotations are all from Liber 220, the book of the law. It is a lie, this folly against self. Be strong, O man. Lust, enjoy all things of sense and rapture. Fear not that any god shall deny thee for this. End quote. So it's doubling down once again, saying that all these things that you've been taught, all these things that are talked about in almost every religion in the world, this idea of sin, don't pay any mind to that. Go and fulfill your lusts, the lusts of your flesh, and fear not that God will hold you accountable for this, that any God will hold you accountable for this and deny you. You see, they think they're above and beyond all this. It's a type of arrogance. It's a haughty spirit. It's pride. The pride of the self. The idea that you can yourself be the master of your own destiny. You can be God. This is what they teach in these secret fraternities. This is what their religion is within the circles of the elite, this secret religion. And of course, we do see the connections with some of the things mentioned in the book of Revelation, like the Scarlet Woman in the book of Revelation. The Matrix, as it were, the Scarlet Woman, this love of this material world, this deification of this material world, this seeking of pleasures here above all things. Let's continue reading, though, because once again, I don't think I need to put words in their mouths or interpret for you what it is they're saying here. If I just plainly read the words on the page here that they say, I think you'll understand what their intention is. You'll understand what their attitude is, what they think of Christians or mainline religions, what they think of you. Let's continue on. Again and again, in words like these, he sees the expansion and the development of the soul through joy. Here is the calendar of our church. But ye, O my people, rise up and awake. Let the rituals be rightly performed with joy and beauty. Remember that all acts of love and pleasure are rituals, must be rituals. There are rituals of the elements and feasts of the times, a feast for the first night of the prophet and his bride, a feast for the 3 days of the writing of the book of the law, a feast for Tahuti and the child of the prophet, secret, O prophet, a feast for the supreme ritual, and feast for the equinox of the gods, a feast for fire and a feast for water, a feast for life and a greater feast for death, a feast every day in your hearts, in the joy of my rapture, a feast every night unto new, or knew it, and the pleasure of uttermost delight. I feast, rejoice. There is no dread hereafter. There is the dissolution and eternal ecstasy in the kisses of knew it. It all depends on your own acceptance of this new law, and you are not asked to believe anything, to accept a string of foolish fables beneath the intellectual level of a bushman and the moral level of a drug fiend. All you have to do is to be yourself, to do your will, and to rejoice. Gonna pause for a moment there, folks. So do you see? They insult our intelligence here. They insult all the things that have been passed down from generation to generation. They insult the natural laws and natural order of this place by calling it foolish fables beneath the intellectual level of a bushman and the moral level of a drug fiend. All these things that we teach or that we learn as religious teachings, scriptural things. Do you see the attitude they have towards people who try to live a pious lifestyle? Somebody that tries to live according to the natural laws set forth in this place. And of course they say they set up this new law. The old laws don't apply. And you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You don't have to try not to sin or to do good things. Just do what your will is. And that's all that they ask of you. They don't make any demands of you. They just want you to celebrate and ritualize your acts that you do of your own will, as it were. Those things that you seek to do. Make sure you keep reverence for the Matrix, for Knew It, the material world. Just show reverence to it by taking great delight in all these things that you do, whether they be wicked or hateful, or whether they be through love and compassion, whatever they may be. Make sure you keep the rituals and the celebrations and the feasts properly. They don't ask anything much of you, except your eternal soul, really, but they won't tell you that. They don't want you to believe that there's any such portion thereof. They see the old ways as being backwards. The natural laws that our Creator set into motion in this place, they don't think they are bound by them. Because, you see, they created this new law. And it all depends upon your own acceptance of this new law. And you're not asked to believe anything, to accept a string of foolish fables. That's what they say here. Just be yourself. Do your own thing. Be your own master. Anything goes. If you're a 40-year-old man and you identify as a preteen girl, that's okay. That's your will, your true will. Make sure you act that out, however you see fit. That's seeking your true will. We're not going to ask you to feel guilty about that or anything, or to feel strange about that. We're not going to ask you to recognize that as being sinful or that there's something morally wrong with that. Do you understand why the world's in the shape that it's in? These elite perverts have really socially engineered the masses into mental illness. Serious mental illness. And it all has to do with the idea of sin. They don't want anybody to believe in the doctrine of original sin. They don't want people to believe that there is such a thing as sin. You see, this is a little concept called moral relativism. Moral relativism. There's no absolute standard of right or wrong. That's a materialist way of thinking, and that's exactly where they want you to be, bound and trapped in the material paradigm. Because if they could keep you bound and trapped there, well, then they can be the gods of this place, because they think their will is stronger than your will, and if their will is stronger, their will be done. They are the true gods of this place, and you will fall in line and conform to their will, because there must be this unity of will. You see, because they're the powerful magicians, they're the adepts. They're the secret masters, the hidden masters behind the scenes that steer these things in this world. The great white brotherhood, as it were. This is who they believe that they are, and these are the things that they act upon and believe. So even if you think this is all utter nonsense, understand there are people in positions of power in this world that very much believe in this stuff and act upon it, and the things they do to act upon it will affect all of us. So understand what motivates them. Understand what they believe. Understand that they look down on you and they think very little of you. You're little more than a farm animal to them, to be used and abused and manipulated however they see fit, because, you see, they view themselves as the gods of this place. They will seek to fulfill the lusts of their hearts, because the ends always justify the means, and the ends to them is either eternal life here in this physical material plane, ruling over everything and being the literal gods here, or the alternative to that is when they pass on, they will pass on to unbridled ecstasy forever and ever. This is what they believe. So the things they do to act upon these beliefs will affect us. They don't believe that they're going to have to answer to a higher power for their behaviors here. And even if they have that nagging doubt in their mind, they run from it. They run from it. They don't want to have to think of that possibility. So they comfort themselves with these lies. that they think they're the oh-so-powerful, mighty magicians of this world. They're the masters, the adepts of this world. They are going to be the gods here. Look at all their plans aligning just how they want. How their will is manifesting the way they want. Look at all the sheep. Walk around. We'll go get the kill shot. We'll go put the mask on their face. They'll do anything we tell them. They're so gullible. They'll do anything we say because our will is stronger than theirs. This is how they think and how they believe and what they think of you. But let's continue on. There's a little bit more I want to cover before we sign off tonight. We see that the author here, the Master Therion, as he were, says, all you have to do is to be yourself, to do your will, and to rejoice. And then he asks the question, dost thou fail? Art thou sorry? Is fear in thine heart? He says again, where I am, these are not. There is much more of the same kind. Enough has been quoted already to make all clear. But there is a further injunction. Wisdom says, be strong. Then canst thou bear more joy. Be not animal, refine thy rapture. If thou drink, drink by the 98 rules of art. If thou love, exceed by delicacy, and if thou do aught joyous, let there be subtlety therein, but exceed, strive ever to more, and if thou art truly mine, and doubt it not, and if thou art ever joyous, death is the crown of all. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. Remember, I told you they're a great big death cult running the world, and absolutely they are, because they see death as being eternal ecstasy. That's what they're promised. That's what is being said here. That they have one of two results that will happen to them if they follow this new law, as laid out by Aleister Crowley and the Argenteum Astrum, the Illuminati, if you will. And these two results are either they will become the gods of this place, this material world, and live forever and have absolute power here, or they will have eternal ecstasy in death. So neither one sounds like a bad result, does it? So they comfort themselves with these lies, these pleasant lies. There's no ramifications for their actions. They have no moral compass, nor no moral absolute standard of right and wrong. They seek to usurp and upend the system here, the natural order of things. They think they can achieve this. They think they have, to some degree, achieved this with the advent of this new age. And this new law, as given by Crowley, supposedly channeled from a being named Ewas. So that being the case, they see no negative consequences to their actions, and even if that nagging doubt enters their mind, they run from it, and they comfort themselves further with these lies and with these lusts of their flesh that they seek after here in the material paradigm. In the material world, they'll double down on it, and they'll perform it as a ritual to sanctify themselves to the goddess Nuit, or the matrix, matter, primal matter here, as it were. So that being the case, they see themselves as justified in what they do. They think any notion of morals or ethics is just backwards, foolish fables, as they call it. They think they could do whatever they want without consequence because they've accepted this new law and they use it as their guide. They seek to upend the natural laws of this place. Why do you think they are all about this inversion principle and about creating completely artificial new worlds, digital worlds, synthetic worlds, transforming the natural world into something wholly artificial, completely antithetical to the natural order of things as laid out by the Creator here. That's what they seek to do. If they can do that, they can be the gods of this place. That's what they're looking for. But let's continue reading. Lift yourselves up, my brothers and sisters of the earth. Put beneath your feet all fears, all qualms, all hesitancies. Lift yourselves up. Come forth free and joyous by night and day to do your will, for there is no law beyond do what thou wilt. Lift yourselves up. Walk forth with us in light and life and love and liberty, taking our pleasure as kings and queens in heaven and on earth. The sun is arisen, the specter of the ages has been put to flight. The word of sin is restriction, or as it has been otherwise said on this text, that is sin, to hold thine Holy Spirit in. Go on in thy might, and let no man make thee afraid. Love is the law, love under will. So we're going to wrap it up right there, folks. So that's the end of the chapter there, as it were. So the author here says sin is restriction. We have no restrictions on us. We're kings and queens of heaven and earth. We don't accept this. We're not bound by the concept of sin. You see, they think they've overcome that whole idea. They've crossed the abyss, as it were, as they claim in their various rituals. They've discovered their higher self, their divine self, their divine will, and in so doing they are now God, and they will do as thou wilt. That's the whole of the law. Whatever they want to do, whatever they see as their divine will and their divine purpose, they'll fulfill that. They'll do whatever they please. They don't care about how it affects others. They think they're so smart. They think they're so wise. They think they're unaccountable to some higher power. And you wonder why scientism is so hugely pushed in this world. It's the denial of the power of God. As I always tell you, you can discern the spirits in certain ways here, and we're told, weigh the spirits to see what they're about. And I do tell you, there's a very simple test. Ask yourself the question, does this teaching glorify God? If it does not, then it is not of God. Or does this teaching glorify man? If it glorifies man, there's some other agenda at play. Of this you can be certain. And it's not of God's will. It's not of the natural world. There's much wisdom to be garnered from the Bible, and you need to take that with you when you explore these topics. When you look at these things, you need to understand the nature of what's being presented to you. You need to have some basic tools for discernment. So when you look at this, even though they're using the words love and light and life and all of this stuff, what are they glorifying? They're glorifying two things. First of all, they're glorifying man, and they're glorifying death. They're not glorifying God, nor are they glorifying life. It's all based on death ideas. Death ideas. That's how these people operate. They sure do love the symbolism associated with death, and they sure do love to seek their pleasure at the expense of all else, and they'll cover it up. Of course, they'll cover it up to try to maintain appearances for the profane, because they know the profane outnumber them millions to one. And the day that the sheeple wake up to the evils that have been done to them is the day most feared by these elites who run this world, who abide by this secret religion, Thelema. Of course, this would be denied across just about all of the different power structures of this world. Of course, they're not going to recognize that they follow the religion of Thelema, the will, but they most certainly do. They may not recognize it under that name, but as I always tell you, all of these things taught in these secret society groups, all of these mystery school theologies and theosophies that have come forward through the ages here, all the teachings, they're all the same through all these occult fraternities at the topmost levels. They all align and teach you the same things, and it's all about the higher self, the divine will, the divine self. This is God. And if you follow this, you are God. If you discover this, you are God. You're the God of this place. You have no moral compunctions anymore to worry about. It's about doing your will then, because your will is the will of God. You see. And it took Aleister Crowley to identify this for us in the modern era, to make it easy to understand, pretty much. Now, these same teachings have been convoluted and contorted through the ages in these different secret society groups, but it's kind of been simplified here and recognized and acknowledged within the Argenteum Astrum, the Silver Star, this organization that sits atop, intertwined with all the other secret orders. They recognize these concepts here, that the primary motivator, the God of the secret societies, is the higher self. The self, man himself, secular humanism, as it were, but not so secular when you're talking about magicians. And they do view themselves as such, magicians, and they do use the dark arts at some of these levels of power in this world. In fact, at the very tippy top, they are dark occultists who run things. And there's very many within their circles that may not acknowledge things such as magic and metaphysics and stuff like that. They may think of them as being silly, and that the only truth is in our modern science. Well, these people are just as deceived, follow the same religious doctrine, even though they may not recognize it as a religion or a doctrine or a cult in any way. These are useful idiots for the dark occultists at the top of the power structure. They use them to get things done, and they use them as a buffer for plausible deniability about things. But rest assured, the ones at the very top, they know what they're doing. They know that they're leading people astray, that they're trapping people in this hyper-materialist paradigm, so that they could be the gods of this place. And they have no compunction with doing bad things to innocent people, because they don't view us as innocent. They view us as little more than herd animals. You don't even have a soul unless you're one of them, in their estimation. They view us as cattle, folks. They call us the profane. That's how they think of us. If you're not one of them within one of their occult fraternities, if you're not initiated into the order, well, then you don't even have a soul. So you don't matter much to them. And that's also one of the reasons they give themselves justification to do the things that they want to, without worrying about the ramifications for the public at large. But of course, they'll never tell you that to your face, because it's all about lies and deceit. We live in the age of deception. And those in the positions of power, well, they lie and manipulate to get their agendas across, always to the benefit of themselves and not of us. Although they make all kinds of promises and like to make the people believe that they have their best intentions, their best interests in mind, when in fact they don't. They couldn't care less. They see you as little more than property. That's about it. So that's the premise here. I mean, this secret religion of the elite, it's Thelema, the religion of the will, the higher self, identified right here in the Equinox, this 1919 edition of the Equinox, written by, I believe this one was Aleister Crowley, who wrote this, referring back to the Book of the Law. He most certainly wrote the Book of the Law, claimed to have channeled that from an entity, one of his higher angelic beings that guided him, allegedly, his higher self, his holy guardian angel, Iwas. So, that being the case, understand what's been done here, and understand what's being enacted in this world and the reasons why. It's because those who are controlling it have different belief systems than you and I. They don't have any worries about being accountable to some higher being. And even if they do, they push those to the back of their minds by looking at the many successes that they've had in manipulating people. But don't let their confidence and their belief in this type of ideology shake you at all, because the truth of the matter is simply this. The world is going through an awakening process right now. And these people, these dark occultists who run things at the top of the power structure, they are in full-blown panic mode right now. They fear the day that the sheep will wake up and realize who they are and what they're about, and understand how they've been used and manipulated. And they're seeing people awaken here. So they're doubling down, they're scrambling, they're trying to do everything they can to snap in place their panopticon control grid so that they could keep a firm lock on it and trap the people in the materialist paradigm. And they are dreading what they're seeing unfolding before their eyes, because the sheep are unsettled, folks. They know what's going on. They don't like it, and they're searching for answers. And some people are out there trying to give them answers. Some people have gone ahead and done the hard work of looking behind the veil to see what's going on, and acknowledge that fact and point it out to others. So they're doing everything they can to censor that, to quell free speech, to shut those of us up who are trying to expose them for who they are. And they're failing miserably, because nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. And its time has come. We're going through this cycle of time where there's drastic changes taking place here on Earth. There's a spiritual awakening of sorts going on, and they're trying to quench that. And they've been somewhat successful in doing so, but the floodgates are beginning to open. People are beginning to see things in a new light that they never have before. And it's largely due to the efforts of people like us out there pointing out these inconsistencies and things that are done, corruption in the world, trying to come up with solutions to the various problems that we have. So that being the case, we need to keep doing what we're doing and have faith in the good Lord above, because he does have our backs. And that's something these elite scumbags will never have. They don't have a sovereign creator in their corner who set all this in motion. They want to be the gods of this place. But no creation or created thing can ever be greater than its creator. And they think they can do that, and they're mistaken. They're mistaken. And they've been warned over and over again, and yet they ignore the warnings. And the time is coming soon when they're going to have no recourse left but face the fact that they are to be held accountable for their actions to some higher power. And they fear that day, and they're doing everything in their power to delay that day, hoping to delay it long enough so that they can set up their control grid here and snap in place this hyper-materialist paradigm, this transhumanist goal that is the achievement of their great work. They want to put this all in play. And they want to do it real soon because their time is running short and they know it. Anyway, folks, I hope you found this interesting. I want to wish you all a good night. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I do appreciate you all more than you know. Have a good night, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Discover the amazing, clinically proven health benefits of original Tahitian noni. Original Tahitian noni includes powerful antioxidants, adaptogens, nutrients, and phytonutrients to naturally boost energy levels, immune system function, and overall health. Meticulously sourced from French Polynesia, this is the original superfruit, except no imitations. Original Tahitian noni. Visit ATR Health at alchemicaltechrevolution.com. and click on the Shop Here tab for more details.
But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.